All right, let's dive into something that honestly probably affects almost every single one of us who spends any time at a desk or staring at a screen. We're talking about something called cross syndrome. It's this super predictable pattern that could be the real reason behind all those common aches and pains you feel. So let's get right into what it is and how it all works.
You know that feeling, right? You end the day with a super stiff neck, or maybe you've got that nagging ache in your lower back that just never seems to go away. You try to stretch, you remind yourself to sit up straight, but the discomfort always seems to creep back in. Well, what if I told you these aren't a bunch of separate problems? What if they're actually symptoms of one single underlying pattern of imbalance happening in your body?
And this really is a modern body problem. I mean, the way we live now, hunched over our keyboards, endlessly scrolling on our phones, it's creating a very, very specific kind of stress on our bodies. Now, here's the really interesting part. This stress isn't just random. Our bodies are amazing at adapting, and they adapt to these positions by creating these super predictable patterns. What happens is, some muscles get really tight and overworked, while their opposing muscles get long and weak. And this leads to those postures we all recognize, right? The rounded shoulders, the head that just starts to drift forward. It's not just bad posture. It's a full-blown syndrome.
So what do we call this predictable pattern? Well, this is the heart of what we're talking about today. It's this X in your muscles, which we officially know as cross syndrome.
The idea behind cross syndrome comes from functional anatomy, and it's actually beautifully simple. It just describes how certain muscles, the ones that tend to get overactive and tight, form a diagonal line across a part of your body. And, get this, crossing right over that line is another diagonal line of muscles, but these are the ones that tend to get underactive and weak. You literally get an X of muscular imbalance that yanks your skeleton right out of its happy, natural alignment.
A perfect way to picture this is a classic game of tug of war. Okay, so imagine your ideal posture is the little red flag in the middle of the rope. On one side of the rope, you've got your tight, overactive muscles, and man, they are pulling with everything they've got. But on the other side, you've got the weak, underactive muscles, and they've basically let go of the rope. So what's going to happen? That center flag gets pulled way over, and your posture just collapses right in the middle.
Now, this muscular tug-of-war isn't just happening all over the place. It really plays out in two main battlegrounds in the body. First, we have upper cross syndrome, or UCS. That's all about what's happening in your neck, your shoulders, and your upper back. And then there's lower cross syndrome, LCS, which is centered around your lower back, your pelvis, and your hips. So let's open up the case file on each one. First up, the upper cross. I guarantee you've seen this one. If you've ever heard someone talk about tech neck, this is the pattern that's causing it. It's the classic posture of pretty much anyone who works in an office or is a student today.
So who are the players in this upper body tug-of-war? Well, on the tight bully team, you've got your chest muscles, the pectorals. They get short and just pull your shoulders forward and in. You also have the upper traps and other neck muscles that are constantly hiking your shoulders up towards your ears. And on the weak underdog team, we've got the muscles in your mid-back, like your lower traps. They're too stretched out to do their job of holding your shoulder blades in place. And maybe most importantly, the deep neck flexors right at the front of your neck are just too weak to hold your head up, so it just drifts forward.
And the result of this whole mess is, well, it's exactly what you think. Those weak neck muscles lead straight to that forward head posture. The tight chest muscles, they're the reason for round shoulders. And that constant tension from the bully muscles in your neck and shoulders, that can lead to some seriously chronic tension headaches. When those back muscles completely check out, you can even get something called a winging scapula, where your shoulder blades literally start to peel away from your ribcage.
Okay, let's travel down the body and open our second case file, the lower cross. For millions and millions of people, this pattern right here is the #1 culprit behind their chronic low back pain.
The tug-of-war down here is all happening around your pelvis. So the tight bullies are your hip flexors, right at the front of your hips, which gets super short from all that sitting, and also the muscles in your lower back. Together, they team up to pull your pelvis into a forward tilt, creating that really deep arch in your lower back. Meanwhile, the underdogs, your abs and your glutes, they're weak and they're stretched out. They just can't provide that opposing force to keep your pelvis stable and neutral.
And here's where it gets crazy. These two patterns, upper and lower cross, they don't just exist on their own. As this quote points out, your body is one big chain reaction. If you have round shoulders from upper cross syndrome, that can actually shove your entire rib cage forward. And what does that do? It forces your lower back to arch even more, making the lower cross pattern way, way worse. See? It's all connected.
Okay, so we've identified the problem. We see the patterns, we get the chain reaction, but what do we actually do about it? How do we fix it?
Well, the good news is it really comes down to a pretty simple two-step solution for restoring balance.
Now, listen up, because the order you do this in is absolutely crucial. You have to follow the corrective priority. Step 1 is always to release and stretch those tight, overactive, bully muscles. Why first? Because a tight muscle actually sends a signal to its opposite muscle telling it to basically shut down. It's kind of like trying to drive a car with a parking brake on. So you simply cannot effectively strengthen those weak underdogs until you release the bullies that are holding them hostage. Only then, once they're released, can you move on to step 2, strengthening and activating those weak muscles so they can finally wake up and do their job.
So, what does this look like in real life? Well, to fix upper cross syndrome, you'd first want to focus on releasing your tight chest and upper traps. Then, you'd move on to exercises like rowing motions or swan-type exercises to strengthen that weak upper back. For lower cross syndrome, you'd start by stretching out those tight hip flexors and your low back. After that, you'd move on to activating your deep abs and your glutes with exercises like the 100 or a shoulder bridge.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Those aches and pains that so many of us just live with, they're often not just random bad luck. They're usually part of this incredibly predictable pattern, a muscular tug-of-war with a very clear set of rules. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know the pattern, which side of that tug-of-war will you address first?